Hi everyone, this is Brent and I'm picking up where I left off from the Recitation 7 video. I will be showing you, this video is going to be a little bit different because we're not going to be going over this Recitation 8 to the T. Instead, I'm going to try and cover this templating stuff and also hit information inside of the new assignment. So if we look at the assignment for this class, you see that we're doing east-west but with these fuel templating. And so I'm going to show you how to set this up properly to make this work, and then I'm going to try and, I haven't done this before, so I'm going to give you one way of doing it and show you a demonstration, but I won't give you everything. But I think once I show you how to set it up, you should be able to figure it out relatively easy. So in order to talk about all this stuff, we're going to have to go over what a fuel controller is, what a template is, and then how to get parameters through GET requests, and we're going to have to talk about how to set this up so that we can access through this path. So in the last video, I talked about getting this fuel views directory set up inside of our CT310. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you all how to do that one more time. So I'll delete this. Cannot remove because directory, because I have this file open, I believe. Is that why? There we go. Okay. So now this directory should be gone. Now, for those of you who don't know and didn't watch the last video, I am using a certain tool that lets me connect my file system to the lab file system using SSH. It's kind of complicated to set up, and it's not something I will go over in this class, but if you want to find out more about it, I believe it's called, let's see what the command is, SSHFS. You have to do a bunch of configurations, and honestly I don't even remember how I got it set up, but I have it set up now, so I'm going to use it. So let's go ahead, and what we're trying to do is we want to be able to access our page through this URL, 310 fuel views index east west, right? So in order to do that, we need to create a fuel views directory inside of our CT310. So right now I'll go ahead and make that directory. So I'm in CT310 right now. Make a fuel views directory. And then what you want to do is copy assets, icon, index, and web. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can copy these. And we're going to copy them and place them inside of fuel views. Let's see if this takes a second to update. This might be a slow way of doing it because I think this is downloading them to my laptop and then sending them back over the network, which is very slow. So I don't know if this is the best way to do this, but at this point we've already started, so hopefully it'll finish quick. So what basically is happening here is, remember in the last video we set up a path that was like this, right? CT310, and if you go here, it takes us to this fuel page. Also, if you go to CT310 index, it takes us to this page. Well, what this is this CT310, we have this index PHP, which we copied from fuel public. Now, this is like a landing page, and once you get to this index PHP in your routing path, that will redirect you. It knows where your controllers are. So after this point, it'll take over all the routing. So if we were to go to index/welcome, it takes us to the same page because this is the welcome controller. You can see it can be found classes, controller, welcome. That's the only controller that's in there right now, and I'll show you that more in a second. But for now, we're just trying to get this landing page to show up, but for the path CT310 fuel views /index, right? Now we've created that fuel views directory inside of CT310, and we have that index.php file. That's basically the contents of that public directory from fuelphp that we did in the last lab. So let's just update the permissions on this. 755 fuel views. So now if we go into fuel views, you can see all those permissions are updated, and let's see if this will work. It might not work right away. No composer autoloader. Okay, so everything is in that directory, but the thing I forgot to do is, if you get this no composer autoloader found, what it means is that the pathing isn't set up correctly. So if we go into this index, you can see this is the index file that I copied from the directory above it, right? So this index file is the same as the index file in here. So what I need to do is, now that I'm down one directory, I need to adjust the path to go up one directory to basically get back to where that fuel is in my home page, right? So I want to go, oh, what just happened? I think I just accidentally triggered Xcode, which is never a good thing. Okay, so you can see here's index, so it's got to go up out of fuel views, up out of 310, up out of local HTML, and then over to fuel. So up 1, up 2, up 3, then over to fuel. So let's see if this works now. There we go. So now we hit our landing page through 310 fuel views index. So now we want to create a controller so we can go to this east-west. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and go to fuel app. And honestly, maybe I can open this whole directory in Visual Studio. This is probably not a good idea. I'm just going to do it from here. So inside of fuel app classes controller, you can see we currently just have one controller. So we are going to go ahead and make a new one. So let me change over to fuel app classes, change to controller, and we're just going to copy this welcome into our eastwest.php. Okay, so now in my controllers, if this updates, you can see we have this eastwest.php, and we'll open that file. And this is going to start getting really annoying, so I'm going to just have this here and here's my east-west. So this is inside of my app classes controller inside of fuel. And first thing we got to do is we got to rename this controller underscore from welcome to east-west. So this underscore, it'll be controller underscore same as the name of the file. The file name always has to be lowercase when you create these controllers for some reason. And then we're going to go ahead and delete all of these pages, delete all of these comments. So we have a very basic class right now, right? We just have this action index inside of our controller. Now action index, what it does, I'm just going to do die index page for east-west. What action index does is when we go to our controller, so we go fuel views index, we go to the east-west controller, which is the one we have created inside of our classes controller directory, and we go to index, which we either do by typing index or by typing nothing, because index is the default. It'll take us to this action index. So when we go to this route, east-west/index or east-west/nothing, it triggers this action index function call. Okay, so now what I really want to do, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to, so I'm going to try, just so I can show you all how cool this tool is I'm going to see if I can open up this fuel app in Visual Studio. So all of this is loaded over SSH, so it's going to be really slow, but that's totally okay. So I have my classes controller eastwest.php. Here it is. And now what I will do is inside of my views, I'm going to create a new directory called east-west. So all my views for this east-west application will go in here. And inside of east-west, I will create a new view called index.php. Now this view could be whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to call it index. And index.php is just going to contain some basic code. Here is my index page. Okay. So now what we can do is when we go to our east-west controller, instead of just doing this die statement, what we'll do is we will actually generate this view and return it. So we're going to return response forge, which is we're creating response, and then view forge, which is we're creating a view, and then the path to our view. And so our view default path starts in views, so it's going to be east-west/index. Okay, so now let's see if this hopefully when I reload this page, we should get this here is my index page as a header one. Perfect. So we've loaded that view in. Perfect. And now I can show you all something that's pretty neat. Public function action east, public function action west. Okay. All right, so we have our east and our west, and I'm just going to do these die statements real quick. This is my east page. Copy that. This is my west page. So just like action index takes us to the index, if we do east-west/east, this action east will be triggered, and if we were to do east-west/west, the action west would be triggered. So here's my east page, here's my west page. So this is great, but here's the thing, is we don't really what you're thinking is, okay, cool, so now I'm going to create a view for my east page and a view for my west page. Yes, you could do that, but what I'm going to show you is even more dynamic. We only really need this one index.php because the only thing we're changing is our CSS file, right? So even in here, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, before we get into this east-west stuff, I'm going to show you, this is my index, okay? I make this a header 4. I'm going to show you how to do templates. Because what we're going to do is we're going to template the east-west page, and then we might put some content in our view, but most of it's going to be in the template. So it looks like I didn't close my PHP tags, which is bad. So we have our east-west, and we have this index.php view. Now there is a special type of view called template. So if we go into our views and we create a new file called template.php, this view is a special view. I just want to add something in here so I can show you how this is going to work. And remember, these view files don't have to just be HTML. They can be PHP as well. So let's echo out a variable. All right. So, and I will move that down one. Okay. So here's a template. It's a special type of view. And this template is a view that we basically, it might be like our generic view. So like if our page, you know how before we had to type a boilerplate like head, and then body, and then all that stuff. Well, so that we don't have to type that every time, we can just create a template that has all that stuff in there, and then we just can basically hot swap the parts that we need in there. But in order to access this template, we need our controller to have controller_template. So extends controller_template. So now that we've done that, we're able to access the data in the template object. So Visual Studio is freaking out because I'm doing this over the internet, or over SSH, so it doesn't know any of these libraries. So don't worry about the red squiggly lines. So now that I've extended controller template, I am a subclass of controller template. So if I access myself through this, just like I would in Java or self if I was in Python or whatever, right? This will give me template, which is my template object, and then I can create data in here and assign these variables to something. So var, this is, or we're going to call this template var example. So this is just a string variable that has this stored in it. And then, for now, we will not return anything. So, what will happen is if we go to our index page, right, this data will be stored in var, and then it'll be echoed out here. And the template, now that we've extended controller template, our controller is always going to load this template. At least I hope so. If all things go well. Oh, we're on west still. there we go. Here's my template header. So I went to fuel views in index slash east west slash, this could be index. We're trying to get to our action index. So this is my template header, which you can see in my template. And this is my template var that I stored in this variable right here, right? So this is cool because now if we're really crafty with our template, right? Instead of storing just a random variable in here, we can do something like, we can store the view inside of a variable, which sounds kind of trippy, but it'll make a lot of sense here in a second. So let's say we have our body, our main. I gotta adjust the indentation. Here we go. And now we have our contents. We're going to put that in a PHP variable that we pass to our template. And that variable is going to be a view instead of just some text. And so now what we'll see is we'll have our template header, and then we'll have the view that we're going to create inside of our controller and pass it to our template. So here we don't need this anymore, but we do need a variable named contents now, right? And so we'll set contents equal to view forge east west slash index. Okay. Now, when I reload this template, I should see this is my template header, and then I'll have a main tag, and inside of it, I'll have this is my index view, we'll say. Okay. So let's see if this works. Here we go. It worked, perfect. And if I do an inspect, you can see this is inside of this main tag. So what this allows us to do is we can basically swap things in and out of our template. So we can have one structure and then only change the things we need to change and keep everything the same. So let's go ahead and play with this, right? So every page we want to have a different title, so we'll do echo title, right? And then, you know, we have all that stuff, meta char set equals UTF-8. So now we don't have to rewrite this meta char set, right? We don't have to rewrite this meta. I don't even know the meta tag stuff. I forgot already. You can see I'm very poor typer. Meta tag, name, content. Okay, so name equals author, content equals grant, right? We have our name, description, so for now I'm only going to have this one view that I swap in there, but this is going to be really cool when we work with it in a second. So here's the crux of what we're trying to do. So I've showed you how to set up the pathing. I've showed you how to do a template. I've showed you that you can pass variables into the template. I've showed you that you can pass views into the template. Now what we really want to do, right, is we want to pass our CSS file in, right, so that we can pass in, basically we want to do something like this. PHP echo CSS file, right? So that if we're on the east page, it'll echo in our east CSS. If we're on the west page, it'll echo in our west CSS. So how do we do this is what you're probably asking yourself, and that totally makes sense. How we do this is, first we need to create our CSS files, right? So that we can pass them in. Now where do we put them is the question, right? Because we don't put them in this controllers directory. Where they go, and it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it'll make sense to you, hopefully. We go back to our local HTML, the trusty local HTML. We go into our fuel views that we created earlier in this lesson, and this assets directory has a thing called CSS inside of it. And this assets CSS is where we add all our CSS files. So I'm going to go there in the terminal. Local. Oh, this is the wrong terminal. Okay, here we go. Local HTML CT310. fuel views, change directory to assets, change directory to CSS. So you can see there's an images, JSS, fonts, all that stuff. So if you wanted to include images, you would do the same procedure, but you would put it in the images directory. So in here, we're going to touch east.css. And we'll make a main.css. And then we're going to have to do chmod 755 star to adjust the permissions on east, west, and main so that they're all read, write, and executable. All right, so the permissions are adjusted, and now we have these three files. So let's go ahead and open them in here. If this loads them properly, here we go. Main, west, east. And we will open with Visual Studio. So we have these three files. I'm going to try not to close out of them now because they're not in this this thing, right? They're not in my fuel directory, they're in my assets. So in my main, I will go ahead and specify something like body background color, and we'll change it to something that's really obvious. We'll make it black. So we're going to do, just for this example, so I have my main CSS. And then what we'll do is we'll make our west body, and we'll make the text color for this one green, just so we can get a feel for this, right? Body, text color, oops, not text color, just color, and something like red. You might not be able to see red on black, but we'll see. So we've got our three CSS files. This is just the basics, right? So in here, maybe we always echo in our main.css, right? And we'll call this east or west. Something like that. It's kind of a long variable name, but it'll get the point across. So we need these two CSS files. So what we do is in our controller, so in our main, we're not going to add the east or the west styling. We're just going to have this template. Well, actually, we want to default to one of them, right? So this template main CSS, right? The same name as this main CSS variable right here. We'll set that equal to asset, : CSS, and then it defaults to this CSS directory. So we just have to give it the name of our main CSS. And then I'll put a comment here. My default CSS, this template. You can see I spelled template wrong on the one up above. We'll do that real quick. East or west, CSS equals asset, CSS, and we're going to default to west, okay? So I've added these two variables, right? So I have my main CSS and my east-west CSS, and I'm storing the CSS file in those variables, okay? And my template's going to be able to get those. So now, remember, we still haven't done any of the east-west stuff yet, right? So let's just go back to our index page. And if everything works, the background color should be black, and the default text color should be whatever west is, green, okay? Oh, and we forgot to add our, remember we had a title variable in here that I added? I forgot to add that in, so I'm going to add that in real quick. This template title equals index page, okay? So you can see this title got stored up here, and now, well, this is quite the conundrum. You can see these things got echoed out, but they got echoed out as text instead of links, which is kind of funny. So let's see what happened here. So it looks like there is some quotations around these. So let's see if we can go ahead and figure out why that's happening. So you can see what happened is the link to my main CSS and the link to my west CSS, it did come through, but for some reason it's commented out up here. So let's make sure we're doing this right. So let's go check our template. So is it because we didn't put quotes around it? Is that why it's not happy with us? This title tag isn't matching, these meta tags are matching, right? Let's try this again. Okay, let's do an inspect and see what's going on. So it looks like they're not being echoed out inside of the body, which is not great. So let's, here's one thing we can double check. If we do this, asset, CSS, main.css, right? So this, we're literally just hard coding it into the file. So that worked. So that's good, right? Let's just do this. Let's get rid of these echo statements, see if that... I don't think that actually works, but we'll see. Wow, I'm really misleading you all. I had this working super well before, and I don't know what's going on. So, what do we have here? So, for some reason, it just does not like what we're doing. And I can't tell why it doesn't like it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work this out, and then I will trim this part out of the video.